Good morrow, you magnificent godling. Thanks for joining us today. We want to speak with you today about manifestation. That seems to be what everybody's interested in, and I can understand that. We are all godlings, after all, and as godlings, we, even though we may not be consciously aware of our godly estate, we want to experience it unconsciously. We all want to experience it, and we experience that as a desire to be free. And so as we desire to be free, the way we experience freedom is in ability to manifest the experiences and the outcomes and the objects we wish to have here. So I think we can all agree that underneath our desire to manifest is an even more basic desire hidden, which is the desire to be free. We all want to be free. We want to experience the freedom of expression, of experiences that we want to have, that is included naturally and we expect in our godly estate, in the exercise of our godly estate. And when situations we do not will and situations we do will don't materialize, while the situations we don't will seem to materialize, we are experiencing resistance to that manifestation, to experience of our godly estate. So as godlings, we want to become greater manifestors. We want greater freedom in manifesting experiences, outcomes, and objects, situations that we want, that we desire. Now, when you want to do better at something, you practice. And this is why we are here in this venue that seems to constantly thwart our agency, the experience of agency, which is freedom, our godly estate. This is why we came here, in fact. We came here because this venue thwarts us. And you don't get stronger by looking in through the gymnasium's window, through the weight room window. You get stronger by going in and experiencing the resistance that allows you to sharpen your senses, your perceptions, your abilities, your lucidity. So this is a good thing. The resistance you're experiencing is exactly what you want as a godling. Now, we have a tendency to resist the resistance, which compounds the resistance. It doesn't make it go away. We have a tendency to push harder against thwarting and against obstacles, which doesn't make them go away. It, in fact, reinforces them. So let's talk about that desire for agency, for freedom, expressed as manifestation. Manifestation occurs in three ways that I can think of right now off the top of my head. Okay, the first is what most people consider the rarest, and that is precipitation of actual objects, that manifesting or appearing to manifest something out of thin air, as it were. Second, I have experienced that, by the way. I've done it quite a few times in my life, and we're going to talk about in this video what seems to be required to make it happen based on my own personal experience. It can also present as finding things that did not appear to be there moments before. So more on that in a moment. Also a second kind of manifestation is the realization of event streams, outcomes that we want to make happen. We want to experience them as outcomes. It's not so much that we are particular about how things unfold, and that's good. We're more particular about what we want to, the final thing we want to experience, because that's what you need to focus on in that sort of manifestation, the outcome, not be so particular about the event streams, because the universe has a way of arranging things that is really quite a bit better every time if you allow the universe leeway. It's quite a bit better than any event stream that you could actually think of. Okay, the third type is lucidity itself. The third type of manifestation is lucidity. And I say this because the practice of lucidity, let's define that quickly. It is recursive metacognition done by intentionally. All right, so you are basically aware of your own thinking and how it is affecting your experiences. You are intentionally reflecting, watching your own thought process, and watching yourself while you're doing that. And this allows you command over what you say to yourself. Instead of your mind being full of a bunch of unconscious self-talk, what you get instead is a mind that is curated by you, consciousness. Now, how is this manifesting? Well, because it realizes the actual thing underneath manifesting that we all want, and that is an experience of agency. Okay, so the agency is what you're really after. And while it is tricky, let's put it that way, tricky to manifest precipitating objects, and it is challenging, let's say, an opportunity to make outcomes manifest in situations the way we want them, you can always experience complete control, complete agency through lucidity over your own internal milieu. The way you feel and experience the world is completely under your control. And that too is a sort of magic. So I want to start with a little bit more on lucidity before we go into precipitation and creating outcomes, because lucidity is part of how you do that effectively. It is foundational that you be lucid in order to accomplish those other two types of manifestation. So when you are lucid and a situation presents that you notice you're suffering over, if you've noticed that you're suffering, one, that itself is a victory, because you have observed the suffering instead of being immersed in it and identified with it. So if you catch yourself, aha, okay, I'm suffering, and you realize I'm saying something to myself about this situation that is magnifying the suffering, or perhaps entirely responsible for the suffering, then you become lucid as a result of or a response to any kind of dissatisfaction with your situation or how you feel emotionally or mentally even. All right? So when you become lucid in this way as a characteristic, you make it a practice to actually use any kind of discomfort to make you lucid, and that is a practice. It results in a full-time shift, but after significant practice. When you do this as a regular response to anything being unsatisfactory, then your lucidity will eventually result in the shift that we're also all after. And that shift is away from identification with the suffering self-talk into identification as the curator, the architect of what your mind says to you. So in lucidity, when you're suffering, you ask yourself, what are the emotions saying that is resulting in the unhappiness? Okay, if you're physically suffering and you're resisting the pain, whatever sort of pain it is, and I've had a lot of pain in my life, okay, I can tell you now, you make it a lot worse by resisting the pain, by clamping down on it, and by trying to make it stop, all right? You can actually put your attention elsewhere and the pain diminishes. It just becomes loud data. So it's not a matter of making the pain go away. You leave the pain. You, consciousness, leave the pain. If you are emotionally suffering, you bring your attention into the emotion and ask, what am I actually saying to myself in this emotion? Once you've got it distilled down into words, you're going to recognize it right away. And there's a big difference between learning and recognizing. The nous, which is the eternal you, the higher self, never learns anything. It recognizes what it already knows. I mean, it knows everything already. But in lucidity, you, the real you, the nous, the higher self, consciousness itself, recognize aspects of your own experience for the significance they have in some other context, like your spiritual development, okay? So we recognize how our self-talk, once we've got it so it's perfectly reflecting the emotions, we recognize right away when we've done that, put it into words, that's not even true. The thing I'm saying to myself is not even entirely true. And there's a shift in that recognition, all right? Because you're no longer not only not identified inside the self-talk and experiencing the suffering, you're not only observing the self-talk that's causing the suffering, now you have some clarity come in where you say to yourself, wait a minute, that thing I've been saying to myself is not even true. It got all of its power to cause me that dissatisfaction feeling, that suffering, by me believing in it. In the middle of the word belief is the word lie, L-I-E. So when you realize that your endorsement, your belief, whether you're conscious of it or not, causes a bit of self-talk to have this outsized impact on your state of being, how you feel. And then you see that the thing you've been believing is not even true, suddenly the emotion dissipates. The suffering dissipates. It loses all the belief, the thing you were saying that was not really true, loses all of its power to create in you an unsatisfactory experience. In learning to do this regularly, exercising it, you set yourself free of circumstances. You make circumstances almost irrelevant to your peace of mind, almost irrelevant to your well-being, irrelevant to your feeling of empowerment, because you have taken all of your power back from the world that appears to be out there, by addressing the fact that it's never what appears to be out there that is making you unhappy. It's what you're saying to yourself about it that makes you unhappy. You don't have to say anything to yourself about anything. You can just allow things to be as they are. And in fact, every time situations, and I grew up in a very dysfunctional household. It was really a great place to learn all of these skills, these emotional, mental skills, all right? Every time the people, my parents with whom, and my sisters with whom I was mostly interacting in the dysfunctional way we were, every time there was a big upgrade in that situation, so we interacted more healthfully, it occurred right after I surrendered. Now, surrender is a position of great power. It is not, hello, Tarzan. He's a jungle kitty. He came to me out of the woods, so he's Tarzan. Hello, Tarzan. So surrender is very, very important, and we're going to cover that in just a second. And I want to come at it from the angle of precipitation of objects and the realization of outcomes. So when I simply allow things and have no opinion of them, in other words, I don't care. I have freed myself. My inner joy is no longer held hostage to outer circumstances, because outer circumstances no longer trigger unconscious self-talk with which I'm identified. And that identification causes unpleasant emotions. So I'm using the emotions as an exit sign. When you see yourself suffering, go into the emotion. It's an exit. The way out of suffering is in. Okay? Examine and interrogate the emotion and the self-talk that's generating it. Okay? So I am now free, for the most part, of external circumstances, more and more so as time goes by, because I have control over what I say to myself and what I believe in, because what I unconsciously believe in, that very rarely happens anymore. In fact, every time I get upset now, I go, oh, wow, I'm upset. This is great. I've found another bit of emotion that there's some unconscious self-talk in, that if I examine it, I can set myself free of that particular situation's influence over me, because I set myself free of the self-talk that was being triggered and what I experienced as emotion, unhappy emotions, okay? So lucidity is the exercise of your agency. It is the fundamental exercise of your agency, because it is exactly in your unconscious beliefs, your unconscious self-talk, that you are thwarting yourself in precipitation of actual objects and the realization, the manifestation of outcomes you desire. All right? So in your lucidity, you are naturally, as you exercise it, going to have more consistent positive results in manifesting outcomes and in precipitating objects. Now, the times I have precipitated objects, I have found over and over again the factor in the process that I was not allowed to actually witness the instant of precipitation. That is, I had to look away. This has happened to me many times. I have materialized objects like nails in particular that I needed, long screws that I needed, boards that I needed. And it was not, in the case of that I'm thinking of with the nails, it was a matter of they did not exist where I looked for them. And I went inside, and I was looking for them in my work table environment, and I went inside to look for them in some backup canisters of bits and bobs I had collected over time, and couldn't find them in there, and I really needed them, and it was Sunday, and I was all the stores were about to be closed because it was late in the afternoon, and I was receiving birds the next day, and I had to finish the coop, and I needed 3 more nails of a certain type to finish the boards I was nailing in to make it so the birds couldn't get out. And I went inside to look, and I couldn't find the nails I needed in any of the canisters that I had of bits and bobs. And then I went back outside and resolved that I was going to have to get in my car and actually go through the border up into Canada because the local stores were closed. And there, laying next to my hammer, were 4, not 3, 4 of the exact sort of nails I needed. Now you're going to say, well, they were probably there before, all right, and you just didn't notice them. But that's not the way the brain works. The reticular activating system, if you picture the object that you need, you will find it. If you picture it internally. If you do not make a mental picture of it, you will not find it. Now, this has happened to me over and over again. I have found things that I needed because I pictured them internally in a context. And in the case of these nails, had they been there when I went inside, because my brain was already set, the reticular activating system, to find those precise nails, they were right next to my hammer. I mean, like laid out, 1, 2, 3, 4, not in a pile, okay? I should have seen them, naturally. But I went inside and came back out, determined to get the nails, and when I stood next to my workbench again, I saw them laying there, and I asked the gentleman who was helping me work on the coupe, where did these nails come from? Where did you find these nails? And he said, I haven't been down off the roof. He was up on the roof of the coupe. I haven't been down off the roof. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, those nails precipitated. I also... You would say, well, you just found those nails. They were there all along. And I had an interesting situation with a telephone, the old plug into the wall kind, when I was having a conversation with my mother by long distance. She was a long ways away from me. And it was a deep conversation, and I didn't get to have them much with Mom, and I really, really, really wanted to continue the conversation with her. And all 3 of my inside walk-around house phones, wireless, had batteries, had died. The conversation had gone on so long. And so I was very, very emotionally committed, passionate to find the old plug-in phone so I could plug it in and call her and continue our discussion. I knew where the phone was supposed to be, and I went into that closet several times, looked where it was supposed to be, and it was not visible. That happens a lot. I'm not going to say it wasn't there. I'm going to say it was not visible. I stepped out of the closet the last time, really kind of aggravated, closed the door behind me and said to the all, I know the phone is in there. I pictured it. I know it's in between the ice skates and my fencing helmet, on the 3rd shelf up from the bottom. I pictured it there. I opened the door and went back in, turned on the light, and there was the phone. I had looked several times at that spot. This has happened to me many times with objects where they appear to disappear. And I will say, all right, I know you've got it, give it back, because it, as I said, appears to disappear. And then I look away, and when I come back, having pictured it where I expect it to be, where I have already looked for it, it is there. I have done this with other people's objects many times. I say I find things in an uncanny manner. But others would say they were always there and you just did not see them. Well, yes, everything is always everywhere, all the time. Everything is, because we're actually not in this world. We're in the lustrous vast of quantum eminence where everything is constantly present to be fished from the sea of eternal everything. Okay? It's everything and nothing, the lustrous vast, where you go sometimes when you leave your body or die. So, yes, people will say they just appeared, or rather they were there all along and you just did not witness them. And I'll say, okay, fine, I'll take that if that works for you. Because the thing that I've noticed about this particular venue is one of the ways it resists is you're not allowed to see, to witness your own magic. You're not allowed to actually be looking at the point you precipitate something. All right, when it occurs, if there's a twinkling of lights and the object appears, you're not allowed to be looking at it, because if you were, it would wreck your experience of the venue as a gymnasium where you practice your hypothetical, experiential limitations so that you may push past it and become better as a manifester. So herein comes the idea of resistance. Again, resistance itself. When you are in resistance to something that already is, a lack of something or the presence of something undesired, you are actually constantly reinforcing by the resistance itself that the situation remains unsatisfactory. So in order to actually manifest anything, you have to be lucid enough to surrender to the situation as it is, assure yourself that it is going to change in a way that supports you. Lucidly, you make this, you don't become deeply identified with the emotional need for it to be otherwise. You are actually in that identification with the need for it to be otherwise. You're carrying the unsatisfactory thing into each subsequent moment. You have to release it in order for it to change. Just as I had to release my unhappiness with my relationships and my family and the way they were going, I had to release it in order for suddenly our relationships to deepen and reach a new level of mutual respect and understanding. Release, that is, surrender to the way things are or appear to be at the moment, is at the very foundation of realizing the changes that you want to experience, realizing the outcomes you want to experience. So it's the same thing with realizing outcomes as it is with precipitation. You have to look away. You have to release and look away. Just be grateful that as though it has already occurred, and look away. Go on to other things. Stop resisting. Stop nattering at it. Don't carry the fact that it hasn't happened yet into the next moment. It hasn't happened yet into the next moment. Okay, stop doing that by releasing it, being grateful for the outcome that you desire as though it already is the situation, the reality, and then moving forward through time, looking for, being alert to opportunities presenting in circumstances to actually approach the goal that it is you want to accomplish. Okay, so there's as Neville Goddard says, a bridge of circumstances that lead you there. This is why you do not want to specify to the universe every little tiny detail of how things are to unfold, because you are limiting the universe's ability to give you the outcome you want by specifying that it has to be delivered by a guy named Fred wearing a blue blazer. Okay, so I think you get the idea there. Manifesting of outcomes, you focus on the outcome. And the best time to do this is right before you go to sleep, and right when you're waking up in the morning. You use a triumph scenario that implies you have already realized the outcome. Implies it. It does not hinge on it. It does not focus on the outcome. It focuses on the aftermath of the outcome, in the joy you're already feeling. So you build yourself a triumph scenario and you manifest it as you're going to sleep at night and as you're waking in the morning, when you're still in that quasi-wake sleep state, right at theta brainwave pattern, but aware of the world and aware of your dreams at the same time. Spend some time there. The reason being best done at night or whenever it is you're going to sleep is because going to sleep is the looking away. You are recalibrating your field with your manifestation, with focusing all of your attention, which is your godly estate, all of your attention of that triumph scenario. You have accomplished the thing you wanted, and now you're living in the glorious aftermath, right? So you focus all of your attention in that experience. And first of all, that's lovely. It's really great that you can give yourself that kind of imaginative or imaginal experience. Yes, it is difficult at first, but this is how you actually build it. You exercise it. You work it. And you find that each time you manifest the same scenario, a triumph scenario, it gets easier to manifest in much more detail and depth. You can hear it, see it, smell it, taste it. It becomes very real in your experience itself. Then you look away. You release it like a seed planted in the universe. And you go to sleep. You look away. And in the night or the day, depending upon when you sleep, you are energetically now massaged a little closer to the event stream in which that outcome you desire can actually manifest. So all of the manifestation exercises that we're recommending, almost all spiritual teachers are recommending, are exercises in lucidity. Because in lucidity, you are freeing your experience of your agency, your godly estate, from the situation in the world. You are freeing yourself, and it's freedom and agency you really want. And you are doing this by taking control over the mind that has been unconsciously built, and you are consciously rebuilding it. And you are taking control of ferreting out, being the awareness, the consciousness itself that looks for these thoughts that thwart you and make you feel unhappy. Looks for them, finds them, realizes by debunking them they are not true, and you free yourself in that way from their influence. They can no longer make you suffer. Also, same with anxiety. Anxiety runs on your attention to it. Divert your attention away to something else that requires a little mental effort, and the anxiety dies. Okay? So you have control over your internal milieu. You have control over that. You, consciousness, if you are lucid, when you are lucid, have that control. And out of that control, and your ability to stop carrying the unsatisfactory condition into each subsequent moment. Through that, you find the next moment often includes exactly the outcome or the object that you wanted. I really hope this helps. I realize that I cram a lot of knowledge into these videos, and I should perhaps spend a little more time being loving with you and going out of my way to be a little funnier. But I of late have a sort of single-minded urgency in my desire to help you be at least as free as I have become. Because that's the only way we're going to change the world. We have to get lucid and stay in the world to change it. Only a lucid dreamer can change the dream of the world. And we have to stay in the dream to change it. And the more of us are lucid, the more we're able to change it. The more we're able to wake people up out of their emotional dysregulation and point them back to the greater I, the great I am that we are. Thus, together, we put out that little I.